I think I said I could make a game about poop and it's going to sell way more than Albert and Otto did. And then Nemke says, "We'll go for it."
I'm joined by Nemke and Nick Kostic, who are the two bros of K-Bros Games. And today we're talking about poop. Specifically, Poop in My Soup 2, Pooping with Friends, which is the sequel to their first Poop in My Soup game. Thank you both for agreeing to talk to us a little bit about this poopy story.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, I think it's probably everybody in the indie game scene has heard of Poop in My Soup, but for that random person that hasn't, why don't you give us a pitch of Poop in My Soup 2?
Cool. Should I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
All right. So it's basically like Angry Birds with poop. So you play as a little kid who's got a butt for a face. And you stand on top buildings and you poop on the people down on the street. And you've got a to-do list that you've got to complete in each level. And there's like a lot of different levels. And you like unlock power-ups like poop bombs and poop cannons and stuff and poop airstrikes. So yeah, and Poop in My Soup 2 is what we're adding to it that wasn't in the first game is multiplayer. So we got like a lot of mini games. So it's basically like it went from Angry Birds with poop to Mario Party with poop. So yeah, that's about it. There's not much to it, to be honest. And we released this game a year ago, the first one, and it went super viral. A lot of YouTubers played it. Like it's got, I think, about like 50 million views on YouTube right now. And like across all platforms, I think like 500,000 people, 500,000 downloads. So yeah, it went kind of huge, and now we're building the second one.
Perfect.
So yeah,
and that leads me into one of my first questions, which was I wanted to ask why you wanted to make a sequel. As you said, the first one was super viral.
Right.
But what was it that got you to revisit the game and kind of take it into a new direction?
Should I answer this one?
Yeah,
Go for it.
So, in order to understand it, it's important to understand why Poop in the Soup was made to begin with. And, you know, although a little bit embarrassing sitting in front of here, and obviously people from the industry might be listening to this, you know, hey, you made a poop game, you're an indie game developer, what the hell? It was actually born out of like despair and like complete failure that we had to get something done or we were finished, you know. So I'm sure you know, and that's where we sort of met many years ago at PAX East when we came with Albert Otto, which was like a highly spoken about 2D puzzle platformer that Nick had made. And a lot of people jumped on it. Like we had conversations with Apple, we had conversations with Xbox, you know, NVIDIA, Shield was all over it. We just moved to the States. We thought like this was our one and only chance. We won the lotto, like Nick is the most amazing, we've done this, you know. And we released that and it completely tanked, you know. And it was 2 years of development and every single day of our lives, and we released it and it completely tanked. And we were stuck where the only thing that we'd been doing for 2 years was making games. And now the one game that we had made had completely failed us, and we had a month to live. And it was like, either do something now or go and get a job. And we started studying the market, and we said, well, shit, what are we going to do? So it was like a few months of really studying the market and figuring out what do we need to do to make ourselves successful in this industry. Like, we don't know anybody. You know, we didn't have a community. Albert Otto had such a tiny community. And then Nick said, well, poop sells, you know. So what are we gonna look?
I think I said I could make a game about poop and it's gonna sell way more than Albert and Otto did, and then Nemke says, "We'll go for it." So I was like, okay, wait a minute, yeah,
exactly. So that was it. I think Nick, what was it, like 2 weeks you made the game?
Yeah, it took 2 weeks to make it.
It took 2 weeks to make it, and then it got picked up. Yeah.
It was emotionally confusing because on one hand the game was doing really well, but on another hand I've just spent like 2 years working on a game that did nothing, and then like 2 weeks on like one that went super viral. So I was like questioning, what did I do for the past 2 years of my life? You know, so it's like bittersweet.
And it came out
great.
during GDC, right? As
Yeah.
as GDC opened up, the game came out, and when Super Viral was on the front page of Steam, and back then, everybody's front page was the same. So the whole of GDC was talking about this poop game, and it was kind of embarrassing. Like I was even embarrassed to admit that it was us. I'd only admitted to our close friends. We had opened up a whole new account for this game. It wasn't under K-Bros.
Yeah.
Because it was an embarrassing thing, but then sort of it picked up, and now it's got the biggest community, and I think that's why we're making two, because it's just got a huge community of people that love it.
Right. And it's got us a lot of attention from the industry as well, which was surprising, you know?
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to something that doesn't get brought up a lot as a skill for indie developers, which I was hoping to be able to touch on here. And I'm glad this brought up, is watching the market. You looked at what was out there and what you thought might work, and it obviously did. You kind of already touched on one of the other things which I wanted to talk about, which was this very, very big tonal shift from Albert and Otto to Poop in My Soup. And I was talking to you a little bit before, Nick, and you kind of touched on some of this stuff. And it is interesting to think that there's a lot of games out there that a lot of people put a ton of time into that don't get picked up. And what would be your advice to other indie developers that might feel like they're in that same position?
Yeah, probably the worst person to ask, because I have no idea. We're still like exploring and learning every single day, and just when you think you grasped it and you think you know what works, it just, I mean, you know, we made more than one poop game, you know, not all of them took off. So it's just like, you know, it's a lot of luck as well. Like, yeah, we did research the market, and Nemke kind of researches when games are launching, when it's best to launch, and all of that. So you can prepare as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it's just like this weird secret formula that nobody has been able to crack yet, I think.
But also, to add to that, we did know from the beginning that it was going to be big. Right. Because the first prototype, the one that took 2 weeks, we put up on Game Jolt. And that's where it like seriously took off. It was for free. That's where the YouTubers started picking it up. So it was just then it was turned into crunch mode, where we had to finish the game that we were going to sell before the free demo becomes super famous.
Right. Before the hype kind of.
Before the hype sort of drops off, right? Because now there was thousands of people playing the game every single day on Game Jolt. Game Jolt, by the way, refused to feature us. Oh. So even though we were getting over 100,000 downloads, we were not on the front page of Game Jolt, which sort of helped us, because if we were, I think the hype would have been even finished. It would have built a lot faster, yeah. So we were sort of hidden in Game Jolt. Markiplier played it then. And then we're like, okay, Nick, you got to get on this. You got to get on this as soon as possible. And he really crunched, like it was sleepless nights, I remember. It was really crazy. And a couple of weeks later, just launched.
Awesome. The other thing I wanted to talk about, like I think the main takeaway most people are going to see from the sequel is this move towards having a multiplayer aspect to it. What were some of the challenges in creating that? Like, was there anything that really surprised you in having to figure out that you didn't expect to be a hurdle?
And creating the multiplayer, yeah, of course. I mean, that's also part of why we're going with the Kickstarter and why we need some funding in order to like set up the servers and stuff like that and get that developed, because it really does take a lot of time to deploy like a multiplayer game. It's not that easy. But you know, these days, like with like we work in Unity, for example. So like a lot of these companies and a lot of these packages work together so well that like one person can do this. But it just takes time, you know? So I think that's what it boils down to at the end of the day. It's just like the time that we need to invest in order to make this happen. Because initially we wanted to release, and the game itself is ready, like a single player game. It's almost ready to release. But then we had the idea of adding the multiplayer and why we wanted to reach out, you know, to people. But mainly I think we wanted to reach out and go with the Kickstarter so that we can kind of get more of that hype going and get more of the community involved, you know? You know, like we say on the page, like we can only think of so many poop puns on our own, you know? Like when the reviews started coming in for the game, there was so much funny stuff in there that I wish I'd included in the game. So through the Kickstarter, I'm hoping that that people are going to jump on and are going to have some cool suggestions and stuff, because I think they really they made this game much funnier than it actually is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So you have been on Kickstarter for a little bit, and you're in your crowdfunding period now. What has your experience been like so far? What are you looking to do to kind of bring things together, and what are you hoping for with it?
Cool. Okay.
I'm going to point like this because you're over there. Yeah, I think Kickstarter and games is a different animal. I think what we found in week one, it's been really difficult for us to bring our Steam community over to support us on Kickstarter, because simply I don't think that they use it. I think Kickstarter as a tool, it drives very little traffic. That's what a lot of people complain about on Steam. Well, go and try that on Kickstarter. I think the algorithm is even more difficult. So we haven't cracked it yet, but there's a whole lot of B2B companies out there that seem to be helping guys. We don't think we'll be using any of those. We have some tricks up our sleeve that we are hoping to do, when the hardest period hits, which is in end of next week. Yeah, we're just 1 week in now. So we will be reaching out more to our own community for support. But, Kickstarter is an experience of its own, and we like to get that badge. We would like to try and do everything we can. And then sort of, because I don't think neither me or Nick really know what we want out of all of this. Do we want to be in the service industry, the game development industry? I mean, so it's another thing to try out.
Absolutely. And people should be aware there's a link to the Kickstarter down below. So if you are liking what you're hearing about Poop, then go check it out.
Smash that backer button.
Smash it. Moving from talking about Poop in My Soup specifically, to turning more to your guys' story as developer, what got you started in making games?
Oh, cool. Well, that would be me. So I had like an ad agency in South Africa. Nemke had retail stores. I don't know how, loads of stores, loads of employees, and we were kind of bogged down a little bit because we kind of ended up working for our employees. We just had too many people to manage, and we weren't really doing what we love anymore. So on the side, I kind of started in my free time developing Albert and Otto. It wasn't Albert and Otto at the time. It was just like a game that I was playing around with. And then I stuck it up on Steam Greenlight, and we were greenlit in 5 days. So I wasn't expecting much from it. And that's when we kind of figured out that whoa, maybe we can do something here. I really enjoy doing this. And I sold Nemke on the idea and, what we could potentially do. And we just sold everything we had. And we moved to the States, and we went to PAX, where we met you.
Right.
So that was just a few weeks after we landed, I think. And then the rest is history. After that, we kind of just focused on finishing Albert and Otto. That failed, and then we rolled into Poop in My Soup. And I think we developed another 5 games since. We're also into publishing now, so we're publishing for a lot of people. So that's kind of growing. So yeah, it's just kind of tumbled from there. Just gained momentum. There was no big plan to begin with. But
yeah. Yeah, same like the Kickstarter, right? That's how we seem to be doing stuff. It's just, we just went out there and tried a bunch of things, and some things never worked. I mean, we tried mobile as well, and we figured out, look, it's not for us, Yeah, we burnt a bunch of time doing it, but we learned a valuable lesson, and we said, look, let's stick to PC and console for the moment, and let's stick to premium titles, no freemium stuff for us. And yeah, that's how we seem to do stuff, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I much more enjoy the whole transaction of somebody buys your game and then they go and enjoy it. And the whole mobile thing is just you're just sucking people's souls. You have to. You end up having to, because otherwise your game won't be successful. We did try, and it's not for us.
Truth be told, we are trying to get to a level where we can spend 2 to 3 years working on a serious game. And we're trying to get there without taking on investment per se. We're trying to do it on our own.
doing it
So
independently.
our perfect scenario is that Nick spends 2 to 3 years on a game, on a serious game. Well, not serious, but just a good production game, because we're into some funny games now.
Look, Poop in My Soup is a great game.
Right, it's serious. I mean, I don't know what it is a drama worthy of Shakespeare. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, but you know, like, yeah.
Look, it's not going to win any awards, right? We want to go for the awards because we have it in it, and it's also an ego thing. Like, I believe in my brother. Like, he really sells me on his ideas, and I think the idea before Albert Otto was like like that jetpack game. It was just meant to be a mobile, simple jetpack game. You turned into this really dark, limbo-esque 2D puzzle platformer with a huge, deep story. So Nick likes to take it like all the way. And I'm on that ship. So we're trying to reach our comfortable stage where we can spend 2 to 3 years on a serious.
And it's such a shame. I mean, like, you must know, like, being in the industry, to see so many indie developers with amazing games and then they just fail, and then the guys have to go get a job somewhere. Like, we're losing so much talent in the industry because it's so tough.
It is.
And these guys just get like jaded and they give up.
Yeah, I've seen it in the time that we've covered indie developers. It's tough to see, especially when you find people that have a really cool idea and then they can't keep it rolling.
Yeah.
We always like to ask indie developers what games served as their inspiration. Either kind of more recently, what games have really captured your imagination and given you some cool ideas, or back growing up, what games were like the ones that you played that game and you realized, I'm gonna be making games.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know which game inspired Poop in My Soup. I don't know if any did really, or if it was just like, but I mean, I've been like such a huge fan of Nintendo, and particularly what I kind of take from them and what kind of inspires my stuff is how they make you feel when you accomplish a goal. So you'll see that even in a game like Poop in My Soup, like those big explosions and like a big congratulations every time you do something. They just have a certain way of making you feel when you complete something, an objective, and that's been a huge. I mean, for Albert, I don't know if you played Albert and Otto, but a lot of it was inspired by The Legend of Zelda and the bosses, the boss fights in there, and the puzzles in there. Even though this is a 2D puzzle platformer, so like a lot of those are the games that I play and where I draw most of my inspiration from. Even though it might not be kind of evident in the game itself, but yeah.
What about you, Nemke? What games have been?
So here's the funny story. I don't really play games.
He plays FIFA and Rocket League.
And I'll beat Nick. And I'll beat Nick any time, any day in Mario Kart, and he knows it.
Well, this is debatable. We actually have a video of. Well, you did win the last time, but.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, Mario Kart's my thing. But when it comes to I could probably tell you every single new game that's come out. I'm a real fan of beautiful games. I know when a game is really good. But in terms of just like me sitting one-on-one and playing a game, it doesn't happen. It's just the thing. I'll watch Nick play all games. I've completed Zelda with Nick, but sitting next to him while he plays. It's weird.
No,
yeah, we kind of switch controllers. GTA as well. But I mean, that I think that doesn't even count.
It doesn't count.
It's too mainstream, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't count for the indie scene.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring things to a close, we always end our interviews asking developers what other projects out there currently have really captured their attention. So obviously there's a lot of projects getting made nowadays in the indie scene.
So many.
But what are some that have really captured your eyes?
There's so many. There's one that's really super cool and that we just happen to be publishing at the moment. But it's like an old school 80s retro space shooter. But all the music and all the art and everything is done programmatically. So the whole game is like 13 kilobytes,
wow,
which is insane. So it's all done through code. Yeah. I actually stuck up a trailer on my Twitter. We're going to be releasing it at the end of this month. So that's really cool.
Maybe you should send Jacob a demo.
Yeah, it's called Evil Glitch, and you're like fighting this glitch. It's super cool. And then there was a new one that Nemke discovered recently where you're a security guard in this art gallery, and a thief comes in the night and steals the paintings. and now you have to like redraw the paintings and stick them up before like the people come in the morning. So you have to draw these paintings and stick them up, and then like the art appraisal guy comes in the morning, and the guys have coded him that like they've programmed him to kind of appraise the art and see how close you managed to draw it like to the original piece of art. So you have to remember what it looked like. So like this is all done through code. Like it can see like the lines and stuff and how close it is to the original art. And it's super cool, like super cool idea and like cool technology behind it.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. Any other ones you want to give a shout out to, Nemke?
Yeah, sure. So it's another one that we might be publishing. I actually found out on Friday. I was in Champlain College up in Vermont, and the guys are doing unbelievable work. I mean, they go through grueling 4-year school to make games, and the products that they're making and publishing during those times, some are even published by Tiny Builder, really incredible and high quality stuff, especially for us guys that are like YouTube taught. But it really, a lot of work goes into it, and one of them is a multiplayer which is called Impale Your Friends. And it's just 4 boxes on the screen with different colors, and you have to sort of verse each other. I'm sure I'll be kicking Nick's ass in that soon.
Oh, shots fired.
Shots fired at the end of the interview. Well, Nick and Nemke, thank you guys for taking a little bit of time to talk about the history of Poop in My Soup and your guys' own stories as indie developers. Poop in My Soup 2 is currently on Kickstarter. Check out the description below for a link to the page.
Cool. And thank you very much. And thank you for being the first person to ever review our game.
Oh, heck yeah.
And thank you for always being there from day one.
And always being there for all of our games, yeah.